Well, y'all, the National Park Service has released new information concerning the Blue Ridge Parkway. Let's jump in. I've released a couple videos about this. I'll link them in the description below. But the Blue Ridge Parkway was greatly affected by Hurricane Helene, and there are some issues that came out of that. A lot of road closures, a lot of damage to the parkway, and I covered that in that previous video. So just to recap, in September 2024, Hurricane Helene came through and did extensive damage to the Blue Ridge Parkway. This hurricane made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane in Florida, then stormed across multiple states in the southeast, including along the Blue Ridge Parkway. The storm devastated the park and local areas with up to 30 inches of rain in localized areas and peak sustained winds of up to 60 miles per hour. Heavy rain and wind resulted in significant damage along the parkway, including thousands of downed trees and debris covering the motor road, damage to facilities, and multiple landslides that resulted in weakened structural integrity and loss of road segments. Now, just a few days ago, the National Park Service issued an update as to what's going on with Hurricane Helene recovery along the Blue Ridge Parkway. Part of this involves a comprehensive website that kind of just shows up-to-date information about recovery efforts, what's closed, what's open, things like that. Now, a lot of the things along the Blue Ridge right now are closed for the winter, but there's some issues with the spring reopening, and some of the damaged areas even in the spring may not reopen spring of 2025 simply because they're still repairing the damage. Since the original closure of the Blue Ridge Parkway in September of 2024, the National Park Service has been working diligently to assess the damage to the Blue Ridge Parkway and to figure out just what went wrong. Recently, the National Park Service released information concerning just the extent of the damage to the Blue Ridge Parkway across the entire length. In a release, the National Park Service says that since Hurricane Helene wreaked havoc across southern Appalachia in late September 2024, the National Park Service has cleared mountains of debris, constructed hundreds of facility and resource assessments, and reopened over 310 miles of the 469-mile Blue Ridge Parkway in Virginia and North Carolina. In both states, widespread tree fall, erosion, trail, and culvert damage occurred, and many structures, both historic and non-historic, were heavily damaged. Critical drainage features that support public infrastructure were also compromised, and many significant cultural and natural landscapes were impacted. The work to restore the parkway is complex, and some areas will take years to repair and finally reopen. Some of the most significant damage to the parkway's primary roadway occurred in North Carolina. The National Park Service has identified landslides across approximately 200 miles of parkway in North Carolina, stretching from the Virginia-North Carolina boundary to beyond Mount Pigsaw, south of Asheville. The landslides range in scale and scope, as some slides occurred along the parkway, some below, some taking out portions of the road, and some less obvious but compromising the integrity of the road or drainage systems. The highest concentration of overall damage occurred from the Linville Falls area near milepost 317 south to Mount Mitchell State Park near milepost 349. Along with the destruction of park facilities near Linville Falls, including the visitor center, picnic area, and comfort station, and portions of the campground, park teams have documented over 4 dozen landslides and other storm-related natural and cultural resource damage in those 38 miles of parkway alone. While the road is open in all 217 miles of the parkway in Virginia, additional repair and cleanup work remains. In the coming months, recovery work in Virginia will focus on roadway and drainage repairs, hazard tree work, woody debris removal, culvert clearing, removing silt from mill ponds, repairing damage to historic and non-historic structures, trail clearing, and cultural landscape and natural resource restoration. Funding for the storm recovery will be available from multiple sources, including a portion of the more than $2 billion in supplemental disaster funding that Congress recently allocated to the National Park Service. The park has already benefited in $25 million in funding from the U.S. Department of Transportation's Federal Highway Administration Emergency Relief Funds. The National Park Service is working closely with the Department of Transportation to perform emergency stabilization and repair work at several slide locations near critical transportation network, and to complete debris removal and roadway guardrail repairs. Contracts have been awarded for a portion of this work, with an initial round of emergency repairs expected to begin in the coming weeks and to continue across the summer. Due to the severity of storm, conditions on park roads and trails are evolving. Visitors should plan carefully for any trip along the parkway, consult the park's online road status, and share travel plans with others in advance. Given the storm's widespread and sometimes hidden impact to many sections of the road, winter weather-related closures also include all recreational use. For safety reasons, the park asks that people respect all closures. With snow, rain, and wind, additional tree fall and slides are possible along the area. Weather permitting, the parkway is open for normal traffic along all 217 miles in Virginia. Notably, according to the National Park Service, there are 8 areas of severe damage that have yet to be repaired or are in the process of being repaired. The National Park Service has released a map that details all of these critical areas. The parkway is closed from milepost 217.3 to 285.5, with a slide at milepost 224.9 and 3 event sites at milepost 284. The parkway is closed again at milepost 305.3 to 330.8, with a slide at milepost 306.8. The parkway is again closed from milepost 333.9 to 381.9, with 3 sites between milepost 342 and 343, a slide at milepost 375.6, and a slide at milepost 380.5. The parkway is again closed at milepost 393.8 to milepost 405.4, with a slide at milepost 401.6. The parkway is also closed at milepost 420.3 to 423.3, with a slide at milepost 421.8. So it seems that National Park officials are still diligently working to repair some areas of the Blue Ridge Parkway. Some areas are open currently. They were able to get a lot of it reopened. However, some of these critical areas of the parkway, as stated in the release from the National Park Service, may take months and even years to repair. The National Park Service also states that it's not clear exactly why some of these areas of the Blue Ridge Parkway collapsed, as there were other slope features and geological features that are along the parkway in areas that were unaffected. So I'm not really sure why these particular areas collapsed, and that's a cause for concern for the National Park Service, as they need to figure that out. Are these areas that didn't collapse, are they prone to some issue in the future? Are they damaged and that damage isn't apparent and they need to take a look at it some more to make sure that, there's nothing's going to happen there? So these are all things the National Park Service needs to flesh out in order to keep the motoring public safe on the parkway. But the unfortunate truth is, even though a lot of the Blue Ridge Parkway was reopened and you can go there and you can ride around and you can recreate on the parkway, some of these critical areas are going to be damaged for months and maybe even years to come. So, what do you think about the National Park Service's progress so far? Are you planning on taking a ride on the Blue Ridge Parkway on the open areas? What are some of your best memories from the Blue Ridge Parkway? Leave some comments below. We'd love to discuss this. Hopefully they get the Blue Ridge Parkway repaired soon. I would love to go out there and ride the entire length of it myself. And it is a national treasure that we all behold. Anyhow, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.